And then you leave the early stage and you get into what we call the growth stage. And this growth stage, people can be in this growth stage for a decade plus. This is generally loosely characterized by revenues ranging from 500,000 per year to 2 million per year. Yeah, you heard me right, from 500K to 2 million. And this is a tough one to get out. This is where most entrepreneurs, most business owners really plateau, is somewhere in the growth stage, because they lack the necessary leadership capabilities to get them out of the growth stage.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe.
What is up, everyone? Michael Hickman here, founder of paintergrowth.com, and you're listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. So today, I want to talk to you about something that we've learned now after working with nearly 1,000 painting contractors from all over North America. Big ones, little ones, startup ones, mature ones, guys who've been in it for 30 years, guys who are buying businesses, people of all sorts of revenue, from 100K per year to 100K per week and beyond, right? And I want to just really let you guys understand what the different levels of painting contractors are, how it kind of works together, and how you can kind of think about your business in these types of terms, right? Now, we've kind of broken down stages of growth, and we've really identified 5 main stages that, as you build your company and as you grow your business, you're going to progress through. And each one of these stages is loosely defined by revenue, but more specifically defined by owner mindset and systems. Okay, so we're going to go through kind of each one of these 5 stages, how they work together, and then hopefully you can identify where you fit in these stages. Now, the first stage out of 5 is called the startup phase. And generally, this is described as $0 to $100,000 per year. So really, this is you. You could even go as high as like $150,000 per year, $200,000. Like I said, it's loosely defined by revenue, but more specifically defined by you and your systems. So when you're in this initial phase, which we call the startup phase, some people never get out of the startup phase. Some people in the startup phase for freaking 10 years, right? But they're still in the startup phase. This is where you're really trying hard to build those foundational habits for consistent revenue. This is like you're the only painter. Maybe you'll have some helpers every now and then. Maybe you'll hire some sub crews every now and then. But really, like you are the painter. When someone hires you, they're expecting you. You're the one that shows up. And so, you could make some good money in startup phase because you have almost no cost. Pretty much the only thing you're paying for is paint. So if you produce 150K in a year on your own, you could make $130,000 in profit, right? And that's fine, right? That's a really good business for a lot of people. But you got to understand what you're doing for that money, what you're doing with your time, when you get out of bed, what time you get back home, the work you're doing at home. Like, it's a very significant time drain to generate that money. And then if you ever go on vacation or you stop working, you essentially stop making money, right? So you have to pay extra, not just the price of the vacation, but the lost wages as well. So in this, you're typically generating a lot of word of mouth referrals. I don't know, you might have done a little bit of door knocking. You don't really have much of a sales process. Sales are pretty easy if they're word of mouth. But essentially, you are the business. So this is the startup phase. Now, the next phase is we call it the early stage. So we have startup and then early stage. And this is the second. And this is loosely categorized by revenue between 100,000 and 500,000 per year. So pretty big area. And really in this, you're still very much on the tools. You're still very much painting, but you have a team around you. You begin to hire painters. You begin to leverage employees to do your bookkeeping, to do your, calling, to do some admin. Maybe you're bringing on a virtual assistant. Specifically, like you're hiring helpers and sub crews, maybe even a lead painter. This is really about shifting from a solopreneur into a small business. And this is a really cool and significant shift for a lot of people, but it's very different. So if someone in early stage gets on a call with someone from startup, like, we're not the same. It's very different. You'll notice that difference in how they talk about systems, how they talk about people, right? That early stage business owner is more responsible, has more of a systems mindset. Still has a long way to go, but is starting to think in a systems mindset. And getting out of early stage is generally characterized by getting completely off the tools and off the job site. So that, can happen before 500K, but it doesn't typically happen before about 4 or 500K. 500K per year is about 3 full-time painters, 3 to 4 full-time painters. So it doesn't typically happen before then. But once you get off the tools, you're running at least 1 crew, maybe 2 crews consistently, 2 to 4 painters. You're leaving this 500K per year, 40K per month type level, and you're leaving the early stage off the tools. The only time you're on site is when you're actually training your painters, maybe setting up some jobs, talking to customers, things like that. But you're not painting, you're not producing anymore. You're now purely managing your team. Okay. And then you leave the early stage and you get into what we call the growth stage. And this growth stage, people can be in this growth stage for a decade plus. This is generally loosely characterized by revenues ranging from 500,000 per year to 2 million per year. Yeah, you heard me right, from 500K to 2 million. And this is a tough one to get out. This is where most entrepreneurs, most business owners really plateau, is somewhere in the growth stage, because they lack the necessary leadership capabilities to get them out of the growth stage. So what is the growth stage really characterized by other than revenue? This is separating who you are. No, sorry. This is separating you being a leader of individuals to you being a leader of leaders, of managers. And so typically you'll have 3 main managerial positions underneath you. This is going to be your production manager, your sales rep, and your admin, or your admin/project coordinator. Okay. So if you can get those 3 positions in place, your PM, your sales rep, and your project coordinator, that leaves you to really focus on marketing and leading. And that is what is going to allow you to get your business to that $2 million and beyond phase. And like I said, a lot of people get stuck in this, because as you're going through this growth stage, through this 500K to 2 million, which is like 40K to 160K per month, it's hard. You have to do a lot of things that you've never done before. Like, you need to figure out how to hire a production manager, or how to turn one of your job site managers or crew leads into a production manager. And that's not an easy thing to do. You need to learn how to delegate the skill of sales. And within sales, there's 2 main jobs in it. There is your the actual sales skill, where you're teaching them how to transfer trust and create common sense of purpose and get people to sign on the dotted line. And then the other skill, which is profitably estimating a project and getting the price, right? So those are 2 skills, and you're balancing both of them at the same time. And you're training your salesperson at the same time that your crews are still painting, right? Your production doesn't get to stop while you train your sales rep, right? It's still going. I typically recommend hiring a production manager first, and then an admin, and then a sales rep, or an admin first and then a production manager, then a sales rep. A lot of the time you can get an admin like overseas, virtual assistant type thing, for like between $1,000 and $2,000 per month. Very affordable. But a lot of owners who've never done that type of thing before get very caught up on that idea of leading someone overseas, since it's difficult for some people. But if you can get over that, it's incredibly rewarding for your business, and you can create a job for someone and an opportunity for someone in a different country, which is also rewarding. So getting out of growth stage, we have it loosely defined 500K to 2 million, but this is really, more described as, are you completely out of operations, right? Are you not doing anything on the jobs? You're not doing anything on the sales. You're basically leading the marketing department. Maybe you have a field marketing manager or a marketing assistant who is leading the charge on the lead gen. And now you're just managing your marketer, your salesperson, your PM, right? And letting you get to that point where you're thinking ahead. You're not just thinking 1 month or 3 months ahead anymore. You're thinking 1 year to 3 years ahead, and you're able to make moves and plan your months and quarters and years accordingly, right? So that's really cool. Once you get out of that, right, you get that management layer, you develop your leadership skills, you start building culture, and now your role is leading and recruiting, which is really cool. The next stage after growth stage, which was the 500K to 2 million, is maturity stage. And this is, again, loosely defined from 2 million to 5 million. Now, this is probably the loosest definition of revenue because I've seen guys do 3, 4, 5 million, but they're still in growth stage because of their mindsets, how hard they're working, the lack of systems that they have, right? And in maturity stage, this is really about shifting from an active owner to a strategic leader by delegating that daily management, bringing on a general manager to manage the business for you, and you really just focusing on leveling up their skills. Yes, overseeing KPIs, but you're just working on leveling up your general manager skills so that they can operate your business successfully. If there is growth, like the business unit can grow, but you might also be spending time thinking about ways and actioning ways to scale regionally and growing through acquisitions or opening up sister territories, or adding on different product lines. But really, it's about creating a self-running business that generates long-term wealth and freedom. And as you can see, like the creating a business, having a business in maturity stage and being completely out of operations is completely different than an owner who's operating in growth stage and still firefighting, still talking to the PM every single day, talking to the sales rep, doing visits with the sales rep, doing buddy estimates, working with your marketing team. So, like I said, loosely characterized by revenue, but more correlated with the actions that the owner's taking and their ability to lead a large organization through higher levels of leadership. Now, the final stage is enterprise stage. We were toying with calling it exit stage, but it's not really exit stage. It's better defined as an enterprise stage, and this is $5 million plus. And this is really achieving complete operational independence and autonomy. And your business, your role as a business owner is now about preparing your business for sale or transition through valuation and succession planning. So you have an enterprise. It's a saleable asset now. You might be looking for an exit. You might be looking at keeping it as a cash cow. You might be looking to take on partners to help you scale locally or regionally. And it's really about maximizing your value, your financial return, and securing your legacy, right? So as a recap, we have the startup stage, early stage, growth stage, maturity stage, and enterprise stage. And each one of these are very important to understand where you are and understand what's coming so you know what decisions you need to make. So if you know where you are, you're going to know, like if you know that you're an early stage 100, 500K, your number one focus is to get off the tools as quickly as possible, optimize your pricing and profitability, and get some basic lead gen and sales systems in place so that can be more consistent, right? If you know that you're in growth stage, okay, now you're between 500K and 2 million. Now you know the objectives. Scale your marketing with paid channels. Bring on a VA. Bring on a production manager. Bring on a sales rep. Implement SOPs, right? You know this. If you're in maturity stage, now it's time to duplicate your teams. Bring on an additional project manager. Bring on an additional sales rep. Start scaling teams that way. Focus on profit, becoming a better leader. And what we've done at Painter Growth now since learning this is created a pathway from startup to exit or startup to enterprise where we can actually support owners, whether they're in startup phase or they're like solidly in the maturity stage on the way to 5 million or just getting started. We have the coaches, we have the training, we have the outline, we have the recommendations, we have the documents and templates that are specifically designed to help every owner at every stage, right? And that's where we are eventually getting to, because we want to be your partners in growth from startup to eventual exit. So with that being said, that is our growth stages. That's how we've determined to break up the growth of a business from startup to enterprise, startup to exit. And I hope that by sharing that with you, you got some good insights on where you are, what your focus needs to be, and actions that you need to take moving forward. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.